Hello my beautiful butterflies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Beverley and it is so lovely to see you today. In today's video I'm going to be doing a book review and it's The Psychic Art of Tarot by Matt Oren. Look at the cover, it's absolutely beautiful. I'm very excited to talk about this book, so grab that cup of tea, let's get to it. Now, as always, before we start, I do have to give a little disclaimer that this book was not given to me. It is mine. I bought it with my own money. The author and the publishing company don't even know I exist. But if anybody wants to send me free books to review, thank you. But yeah, no, I buy these books and I love sharing what I'm reading with you and doing little reviews. So if you enjoy them too and you want them to carry on and you want to help out a little bit, I do have Patreon and Ko-fi. Links are down below. No pressure. A like, comment and subscribe is more than enough. Let's get into the review, shall we? Get my phone going. So we've got quite a lot to get through here. So make sure you've got your fluffy blanket, an animal to cuddle or a teddy bear, cup of tea, hot chocolate, get festive with it. Let's get into it. I absolutely loved how in the beginning Matt described there was different ways of reading tarot. There's like a psychic way and there's the definition way of doing it, and you can also mix the two together. This really helped me because I so struggle with the meanings of the cards. I am a disabled witch, as many of you in my audience are, and I really struggle with my memory. I struggle with remembering the meanings of the cards. I've always got like a little pile of books next to me and I can share my tarot books with you if you should like, but I always do have like a little pile of tarot books and I'm flicking through them furiously trying to figure out what the cards are trying to tell me. I'd never heard of psychically reading the cards. And I did a video way back in the day, I'll leave a link to it down below, where I talked about how I prefer oracle card reading to tarot card reading because I loved reading them just with my psychic abilities. I loved just seeing what jumped out at me and kind of just going with the flow. And I kind of missed that. I always felt like with tarot you had to know the meaning, you had to know the symbolism, you had to know all this stuff in order to do a reading with a tarot deck, and reading this book blew my whole brain apart, blew my whole world apart. I really loved that. It kind of let me know that I can just look at my tarot deck and kind of just read it using my brain hole and my clairs instead of relying on the books so much. Obviously it is important to know the different It is important to know the different meanings and the symbolism in a way, but you can also just read psychically, and that was really big moment for me. I really loved that. There was also a really nice reminder in the beginning where they compared art with psychic abilities, in that we have to practice it. You don't wake up one morning and bam, you've got psychic gifts. Although I have heard people who talk about having psychic gifts, of it being like that. I don't know how that works. Obviously there are people who've had like near-death experiences and things like that where they just suddenly wake up and they're completely different. But for most of us, it's all about doing the work. It's not just reading books, it's doing the actual doingness of it. And I think that it was really refreshing and really nice to hear somebody say that not everybody is really open and really good with their psychic gifts at first. Some of us have to work for it. Like, I'm very scared of ghosts. I always have been. Terrifies me. I think a lot of it came from watching horror movies where there's that jump scare, and whenever I'm trying to do anything with the dead, I'm waiting for that jump scare and waiting for that horrific looking ghost that's going to jump out and get me. So I think those of us who are afraid of these gifts, we shut ourselves down, and I think it sometimes takes time to open back up again. And I've definitely found that for myself. So if you have as well, it's perfectly normal. It's perfectly fine. We have to sometimes work for the things that we want, but just like witchcraft is something we have to practice, so is our psychic gifts. And I really, really love that that was mentioned. The exercises in the book, I have not done all of them. I've done the first set because I wanted to like test it out, and I've read the others, but I haven't done them yet because over the dark half of the year I'm planning on like deep diving into all the exercises and working with this book more. I didn't do all the exercises, but the exercises that I did I really liked. They're accessible in so many ways. There are exercises in here where most of the time it's just you and a tarot deck. I think there is one where you need a pendulum, but you can just use a necklace as a pendulum if you would like, and you don't have access to a pendulum like anything, like most things, like a paper clip and a bit of string can be a pendulum. So it makes it accessible because not all of us have got the money to be buying extra things, you know. The one thing I will say, and I say it for most of these books, there's only been one book that has not done this thing that really annoys me, is the meditations are written down. There should be a link to a website, or the publishers should have a website or something. Like, we've had the internet long enough now that we should have realised or worked out a way for us to be able to access the meditations in a book without having to pay extra. Because if you'll remember, the one person who did have meditations available online, you had to pay £20 to have access to them. That is a lot of money. Like, when I think for me to feed me for a week costs about £20 at the moment. That's how weekly shopping is. It comes to about £60 for me, my mum and my husband. So when you think of it that way, £20 is a week's worth of shopping. I can't justify spending that just to listen to meditation. I wish meditations were available online. I would love to be able to just be like, oh yes, on this page I'm going to go through this meditation. I'll go to this website and I can just access it. I don't know how they would do it. I don't know how they would do it, but I wish they would. I really, really wish they would. Please, publishers and writers and authors and all of you, please start putting your meditations online for us, even if it's like on your own personal website and you need like a secret password or something to get into it. I don't know how you would do it, but you know, just can we, please? Now, if you are a disabled witch, you might be wondering about the accessibility of the book itself. It is very floppity, which is wonderful for those of us with hand pain, because as you can see, it stays open. I haven't got to use my hands a lot to keep the book open, which is great. Downside is, once again, teeny weeny little text. Now, this is a note more for publishers rather than authors, because the authors have no say in how big the text is, and I know that publishers are probably thinking, we'll make the text as small as possible and then we can make the book so we haven't got to print as many pages. But for those of us who are disabled and have trouble with that eyesight, that is not easy to read. And there were days when it was like blurring and getting like double vision and stuff, so I couldn't read on those days. So if you have sight issues and fatigue issues like me, consider getting it on Kindle rather than the actual book version. The book itself is not heavy and it's okay. It didn't give me arm pain, it didn't give me hand pain. Very grateful for that. So just something to bear in mind if and when you go and buy this book. Another thing, and I have mentioned this before, is there is no mention of chakras or any kind of culturally appropriated language in this book. I love that so much. I've talked about this before, but I've been working hard to decolonise my practice, and I hope most of you are as well. So much of the spiritual community is kind of stolen from other cultures, and it's so sad to see. This book, none of that at all. They referred to them as energy centres, and so good work for Matt for not doing that, because that always takes me out of the whole thing. There is a whole chapter in this book about imposter syndrome and fear of tarot, or fear of certain tarot cards like the death card, the devil card, which they don't mean what you might think they mean. In there's talk about being unsure or afraid of psychic gifts. That's something that I've struggled with my whole life. Like when I was a little kid, I was definitely very afraid because I could see and sense beings in the room with me when I was trying to sleep at night. And it would really, really terrify me. Now I'm thinking, well, it probably was my ancestors or gods or angels. But back then it was just terrifying, and I shut all my stuff down because I was just so afraid. And now trying to open it back up has been a real journey for me. And I often feel myself feeling that imposter syndrome feeling as a witch, sharing her practice, sharing my thoughts and feelings here on the internet. You often feel like, oh, I'm not witchy enough for this. My Instagram isn't witchy enough. My outfit isn't witchy enough. You know, you feel this pressure a lot. That imposter syndrome and that fear is something that I'm so thankful that authors like Matt talk about, because it's something that we all struggle with. Every single person on the planet struggles with imposter syndrome, and it's something that we need to start working on, getting better at believing in ourselves and believing in the magic of ourselves, and how we're all individuals and we've been put on this planet or chosen to reincarnate on this planet in this dimension because we have something to say or a special talent or something that we need to do here. And if we all try and do what everybody else is doing, then those special talents and gifts don't get shared, and those things that we're here to do don't get done. So I love that that's talked about here in this book. I think it's something that needs to be talked about way, way more. Another thing that I really, really enjoyed was that the discussion of the intersection between science and spirituality and faith, like where the two mix, is something that is fascinating to me. They're all things that really make me believe in it more and have more and more faith as more and more people in the science community start to prove and work on things that we know are true because of our faith, but now they're tangibly proven. That is something that is really important, that we need to all keep our eyes on, because it's so easy to be skeptical until science comes into it, because in our culture, in the Western culture, science is king, isn't it? Like if it's not proven by science, it doesn't exist. To explain things to other people, but also to understand things better. So I loved that. And also how they spoke about everything in a really accessible way. Like they talked about TV shows, films, comic books. They talked about things in a way that I could picture it in my head, in a very, very easy and accessible way. Like this book was the first time I'd heard of mind palaces other than on Sherlock, and I just thought it was a Sherlock thing. And yet when they explained it, they talked about it because of Howl's moving castle, I think it's called, to picture things in my head. And I think I've done videos about this as well, or I can do videos about this in the future if you would like. I struggle with visualization, so often when I'm doing magic I will picture it as if I'm like a character from a TV show or a film that I've seen that has really inspired me. Like when I'm doing certain work, I'll picture Bonnie Bennett from the Vampire Diaries, how she connected with the earth. Book characters and things like that just make it really cool for me. Scenes like that really speak to me, like that kind of making it easier for my brain to picture it in my head. And so seeing that sort of thing mentioned in here, and also one of the actresses from The Craft, Rachel True, did the introduction, so it just felt very much like accessible to me in the way that, oh, I can understand it. I know where this geezer's coming from. I get it. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. And that felt really good, because a lot of the time people talk about just visualize this, and it's like, well, I struggle with that. They also mention other ways to do visualizations or guided visualizations. Is you can use scent or you can use touch, like you could light candles or wear certain coloured clothes or put certain musical tracks on in order to set the mood for you while you're visualizing something or creating something, and that really spoke to me. And it's something that I've never come across somebody mentioning before, which is really crazy to me and obvious. Like when you hear it you go, oh, of course, just use my other senses, duh. But because everyone says visualization, it feels like it should be visual. If you struggle with visualizing, or you have ADHD or something else that affects how you can picture things in your head, it's really important to have things that are explained to you in a way that you can do it, you can grasp it. So I really, really appreciated that in this book. Overall, this is just a really, really beautiful book. It did give me kind of a Tower moment, in that I've always said, like, you don't need magical things, you are the magic. And then when I heard about Mind Palace, I was like, wait, I could just do spells in my head using my own self as and I'm the magic. Oh my god. And everything just went click and clicked into place. And then I did a reading with my gods and my ancestors, and it was like Archangel Michael was like, you're correct, and Hecate was like, which? And so it was like this thing where it was like, yes, you are the magic. Like, don't ignore the mundane, but you have the ability to make anything happen. And whenever I'm thinking about that at the moment, the palms of my hand go all tingly and warm, because you have energy centers in the palms of your hands, and that's how you direct energy. And I know that if I knew how to direct energy really, really well with my hands, I could just achieve so much. But this really clicked. Like, so many things in my brain just went click, 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 and I felt really inspired by it. So thank you, Matt Orin. I doubt you'll watch this video, but if you are, thank you. You've really opened the world up to me, or rather my inner world has opened up, and I feel really inspired. This book is amazing. It's one of my favourite books I've read this year, and I do have a Kindle version of one of his other books. I think it was Psychic Witch, but I might go back and read that and get his other book as well, because if they're as easy to follow and as accessible as this book, I'm going to be flying. I'm going to enjoy it. This is Matt Orin, The Psychic Art of Tarot. As always, I will leave information and links to the author and the book, well, both books and the authors, down below, so you can decide if you would like to try and read that book, and also the next book we're going to be reading, because next month we are going to be reading this, and I'm so excited. This is Disable Witchcraft, 90 Rituals for Limited Spoon Practitioners by Candy Zeller. The cover is so cool, and it's really light. It's a hardback, but it's really light, so I'm very excited to read this. I'm not sure what kind of thing is going to be going on in here, but I'm very excited. When I saw this in my suggested titles, I was like, oh hell yes, I'm getting that. So yeah, yet again, if you want to read along with me, or if you have been persuaded to purchase The Psychic Art of Tarot for yourself, then links will be down below. Oh my goodness, guys, I feel renewed and inspired, and I just did a video all about feeling like getting re-inspired with your witchcraft while grieving, because I'm grieving at the moment, and it's so funny that things come just when you need them, because I just feel like someone's lit a fire underneath me, and I want to go and just go bam, 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 and make magic everywhere. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave it a cheeky like and a comment down below, so I know and the YouTubiverse knows that you enjoyed it, and it will get spread out just that little bit more. While you're down there, if you are new here, you can join the butterfly family by clicking that subscribe button and ringing that little bell, so you always know when I upload. I'm usually here on Mondays and Fridays. It just depends how my health is, but I try and be here at least once a week. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, magical week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.